Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I find myself a bit conflicted. I agree with both Mr. Waller and Mr. Shapiro on matters that they've mentioned. I mean, first of all, no matter how much gaslighting we've heard this morning, it's clear to me from the internal communications in the committee's report that GARM's objectives are clearly political, to use its influence among its members to suppress free speech and to financially harm outlets in which the leadership disagrees. I don't see any other reading of those communications that reaches any other conclusion. It's a manifestation of the ESG movement that has financially harmed so many companies that practice it. And there is a huge economic price to be paid for this conduct. Go woke, go broke is more than just a slogan, it's an economic fact. I mean, ask Disney, ask Budweiser. They pay the companies, I think, in GARM's case, are risking missing huge swaths of the market that they're seeking to reach. They pay a premium for ads in the forums they've deliberately saturated. They miss bargains in the forums that they are, I'll use their word, throttling. And they risk alienating the consumers upon whom they rely for profits. I mean, I was a devoted lifelong Gillette consumer until they launched their Men Are Pigs campaign in 2017. I haven't bought a Gillette product since. But that's their right as a company to alienate me as a consumer, and it's my right as a consumer to be alienated. Now, if I were a stockholder in GARM's member companies, I would be absolutely livid. I'd either be raising hell at stockholder meetings or withdrawing my investments or both. If I were a manager in any of these companies, I'd be livid also, and I'd be canceling my membership in GARM with a strong letter to follow. But here's the fine point of the matter. That's a beef between the company's stockholders and their management. It's a beef between GARM's member companies and GARM. It's a beef between those companies and their consumers. But it is not a beef between GARM or its member companies or their stockholders and consumers and this government. People have a right to their opinions and to express those opinions in any peaceful manner that they choose. Companies are simply a collection of people gathered together to pool their resources toward a common goal, whether it's to make money or advance a political cause or both. It's a little amusing to see that the Democrats suddenly championing this freedom because in GARM's case it benefits them, but rail against the very same freedom when it comes to such matters as Citizens United. For the left, their ethics are strictly situational, and as I've often warned on this committee, we can never allow them to become our teachers. Democracy extends beyond the political realm to the free market as well. In a free market, consumers vote every day with every dollar they spend on what the market will produce, who best produces it, what they're willing to pay, and who they'll buy it from. A free government exists to protect this right, and that's why I think we should be careful when we tread into this matter in the application of government power in disputes that are strictly between private parties. But I do think Mr. Shapiro is absolutely correct that if this government is in any way acting to pressure or nudge companies to censor speech or to corrupt their business decisions for political ends, we ought to vigorously act to stop that. But if they're just doing that to themselves, that's their right to make stupid decisions, and government also exists to protect that right. Mr. Shapiro, I'll give you the last word.
I mean, I agree with much of what you're saying. I think that the big concern for the Daily Wire and companies like ours is the nexus between government action and groups like GARM. And it appears clear to us that a well-meaning organization that simply wanted to appeal to the broadest possible audience would not be making political decisions about which outlets are too right or which outlets are too left. I'm perfectly fine with advertisers advertising on Pod Save America or on MSNBC. The problem that we have is an informal structure by which members of government, including this White House, have pressured social media companies in order to restrict their content. And everyone can see that. There's a lot of, will no one rid me of this meddlesome priest going on from members of the government who then seem to be shocked when there's pushback from the right on exactly the same sort of matter.